Today, Bitcoin falls to $93,000 to start the first full week of May. NBC's Meet the Press asks the president whether he profits from the meme coin with his name on it. And as Democrats cast doubt over the Senate stablecoin regulation bill, I speak to Hadley Stern of staking provider Marinade about what it means for institutional adoption. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Talia Kaplan. Digital currencies are heading lower as we kick off the week. In the past 24 hours, Bitcoin fell around 1.8% to the $93,000 level, and the cryptocurrency fell nearly 4% from its $97,000 price we covered in Friday's show. Ether, meanwhile, dipping 1.6% to $1,800, while XRP fell more than 3.5% to $2.12. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. President Trump sat down with NBC's Meet the Press host, Kristen Welker, and she pressed him on the success of the Trump meme coin. The president was asked what he would say to those who worry he's profiting off the token's popularity.
I'm not profiting from anything. All I'm doing is, I started this long before the election.
You're not profiting off of the cryptocurrency?
I haven't even looked.
Has your family?
I'll tell you what, look, if I own stock in something and I do a good job and the stock market goes up, I guess I'm profiting. I contribute my entire salary to the government, back to the government.
So will you contribute anything you earn from crypto back to the government, if that happens?
I never thought of that. I mean, should I contribute all of my real estate that I've owned for many years if it goes up a little bit because I'm president and doing a good job? I don't think so.
And sticking with the president's ties to crypto, Trump has two major crypto dinners he's set to attend, which are expected to rake in millions. Tonight, the president will attend a crypto and AI innovators dinner alongside his crypto and AI czar, David Sachs. Seats go for about $1.5 million, and the funds are handed over to MAGA Inc., a super PAC that supports Trump. Now, it's not quite clear yet how the PAC intends to spend the funds, as the president is barred from running for a third term, and he said he wouldn't seek one in his interview with Meet the Press. Now, the second dinner is set for May 22nd at the president's DC club, Trump National. Those attendees will be the 220 largest holders of the Trump meme coin, and it includes a VIP White House tour for the largest 25 holders. The fine print of the event says the president may not attend and that the event could be canceled at any time. In that case, those who qualified to attend will get a Trump NFT instead. Now, just as NBC's Kristen Welker mentioned, the Trump token has raised concerns about how the president and his family profits from their cryptocurrency endeavors. Around 80% of Trump coins are held by the Trump Organization and its affiliates, and the price of the Trump token surged after the dinner was announced. Finally, the Genius Act, the Senate stablecoin bill, could now be in jeopardy after some Democrats say they're changing their minds about the legislation. In a statement over the weekend, 9 Senate Democrats said that they would oppose the Republican-led legislation that some initially supported if it heads to the Senate floor in its current form. They wrote that the bill, as it currently stands, still has numerous issues that must be addressed, including adding stronger provisions on anti-money laundering, foreign issuers, and national security. The group added that they won't be able to vote for the bill if the current version comes to the floor. Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, ranking member of the Digital Assets Subcommittee, was one of the lawmakers issuing that statement. Back in March, he voted in support of the Genius Act when it passed out of the Senate Banking Committee. At the time, he acknowledged that the bill is not perfect, but that many improvements have been made through bipartisan committee work. In Saturday's statement, the group said they are, quote, eager to continue working with their colleagues to address the issues. And with that wrench thrown in the potential passage of the Genius Act, let's talk about policy for our main story. I spoke with Hadley Stern of staking provider Marinade for his take on what this could mean for stablecoin legislation here in the U.S. and whether President Trump's hopes to have a stablecoin bill on his desk by August could still be a reality. Some Senate Democrats are changing course, saying that they now oppose the chamber's stablecoin bill currently making its way through the legislative process. The group of 9 Senate Democrats said that they would not vote for the bill if the current version makes it to the floor. What's your reaction to this, and what do you think it means for institutional adoption of stablecoins here in the U.S.?
It's unfortunate because we've come through this moment, of almost a decade, and I've been in this space a decade plus, of so much pessimism around crypto regulation, and then we come with this new administration with so much hope. And one of the first things that the the government tried to take on as stablecoin legislation, which should be the most straightforward. And yet here we are with a hiccup. But I think we're at a hiccup for a very interesting reason and from very challenging points that some of the Democrats are bringing up.
Now, President Trump has said he hopes lawmakers will send stablecoin legislation to his desk before Congress's August recess. Do you think that can still happen, given that the group of Senate Democrats said they want to continue working with their colleagues to address the concerns they have?
I think there's still time for it to happen because there's a lot of desire for this to be figured out by both parties. I was down in DC. I say down because I'm from Boston about 3 weeks ago with the Proof of Stake Alliance doing some lobbying. And it was very clear from both the Democratic and Republican side that there is a desire for us to figure out crypto without executive orders. So there is a desire to figure this out. That said, the current Democratic objections bring up some interesting and challenging points that are I find them interesting because it's not just about crypto, but it's also about what Trump and his family have done with crypto as well, specifically the creation of Trump coin, some questions around who funds Trump coin, who buys it, and what that means from a compliance standpoint. So in many ways, this is less about the crypto industry and less about how stable coins have been built by the crypto industry. And it's as much, if not more, about how Trump himself has personally adopted Trump coin, and along with it, some questions around how stablecoin transactions within and without Trump coin can cause some concern.
Do you think there are some ethical concerns tied to the Trump family crypto projects, as some Democrats have argued in several letters to White House officials and financial regulators?
I do. I mean, it's very hard not to see this as a challenge. You have a sitting president who's able to issue a currency and in literally his name, and who knows what happens with that currency, who contributes to it, with the recent announcement of a dinner based on who has the highest amount. You know, these are things that you typically wouldn't see during normal presidential times. So I think we're in a situation, unfortunately, where the crypto industry is a little damned if we do, damned if we don't. So by going all in on Trump, we're getting a bit of the unintended consequences of that, meaning I don't think anyone could have predicted that Trump would have released his own coin. That was never really in the cards or never really openly discussed. It was never really, suggested by anyone in the industry, yet here we are.
And I think it's important to note that the White House maintains that President Trump's family is tied to those crypto ventures and that the president doesn't really have anything to do with it. But switching gears, generally speaking, though, what do you think of the two stablecoin bills currently making their way through the legislative process? And what else would you like to see from lawmakers in the U.S. as it relates to crypto legislation?
I think the bills are fair. I think they're, maybe a little too protective of U.S. interests and of centralized interests in stablecoins. From a crypto asset standpoint, I would have preferred to see support for not only centralized protocols that are launching stablecoins like USDC and Circle, but also a way to figure out how we can support decentralized stablecoin protocols as well. However, we've got to take sort of one step at a time as an industry, and here's where we are.
Now, a coalition of 30 key players in the industry, led by the Crypto Council for Innovation, called on the SEC to clarify regulations on staking. The coalition sent a joint letter last week laying out why they think staking should not be treated as securities offerings. Marinade was one of the companies backing that letter. Why was it important for Marinade to sign that letter, and what are you hoping is achieved?
Yeah, it's very important for our industry, specifically to staking. So, Bitcoin, the granddaddy of Bitcoin, of blockchain protocols, is a proof of work protocol, meaning that miners validate transactions. Ethereum was initially a proof of work, then shifted to proof of stake. And now most other crypto assets like Ethereum and Solana and others are proof of stake. And what's really important for regulators to understand is that staking in itself, while it earns a yield up to something like 7 or 8% on Solana, it is not a financial product in the way that interest is, or lending, or rehypothecation. It's really purely a protocol technology that happens to also yield returns. And this is what we wanted to make very clear to the SEC.
As you noted, you were recently in DC meeting with members of the House and Senate as well as the SEC. What was sentiment like during those meetings, especially as it relates to staking? And did you find those meetings productive?
Yeah, sentiment was night and day. So I've been in this industry for 10 plus years, first at Fidelity and the Bank of New York Mellon, and have gone down to the Hill many times. And, back in 2015, conversations were just kind of, what is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin mining? And then, conversations in the future when we were attempting to build businesses were very one-sided. This was a very different atmosphere at the SEC, wanting to really dive deep into product, understand how it works, understand how they can help, specifically to staking. And on the House as well, a strong desire by both Democrats and Republicans to figure out a responsible way to provide regulations and guidance for the industry. So it was kind of a very energizing experience, which is not something one says every day on visits down to DC.
And you certainly have an extensive background in the crypto space dating back to 2014. In fact, CNBC spoke with you back in 2017 when you were with Fidelity Labs. At the time, you argued that blockchain technology will change the world. Here we are about 8 years later. How would you rate how blockchain technology and crypto have evolved since then, especially with more institutions jumping into the space?
I'd say, in hindsight, thank you for bringing that up. I think things are taking longer than I expected. And I actually, stable coins were never, were not a thing at that point in time when I did that interview. And I'm very optimistic that they are going to be the catalyst of change. But in the crypto world, it's interesting. It depends on what kind of change you're going for. And so there is this very strong history of a decentralized ethos within crypto, obviously with Satoshi and the Bitcoin white paper. And where we seem to be going is more the technology being used as an underpinning to help support TradFi versus a replacement of. So if I was to give an honest report card, I'd say probably B- or B in terms of adoption of the technology, and probably D+ in terms of adoption of the decentralized ethos that underpinned Bitcoin originally.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today, but we'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.